while I was in the processing station, I witnessed a lot of human failure.
Yeah, they got a lot of mirrors hanging up in there.
Probably never even seen your own face in the mirror.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily cringe content anywhere on the internet. Promise swearsies, it's just a fact. It's totally science. Go ahead, look it up if you want. I can't live your life for you. Although I know somebody who can live your life for you, or at least they'd like to, and they do an absolutely terrible job with it. His name is Onision, or Arthur, as he's known in this book. I've been corrected that it's Onision's second book. Yes, this is why I hate you, is the title. I don't hate you. At least, I don't think so. I honestly couldn't bring myself to hate you after you tuning back into this schlock. Let's go ahead, get it off the ground and see how it goes. All right.
Chapter 9, Faith in Humanity is just another religion.
Like, you're saying it's a bad thing? I tend to disagree. I think faith and hope and beliefs are good things overall. But I could see why someone with the conviction of a box of hair might think this way. Let's see what he has to say.
So I read over this journal a bit, and it's pretty clear that I've been a pretty depressed pain in the butt.
Yeah, duh. and don't expect me to believe for a minute that you actually read back through this thing even once. Big first draft vibes.
If you're reading this, you're probably confused as to why the sudden change. Well, the situation has changed a lot. A lot's happened since the last entry, so I'll help you catch up.
I like how there's no timestamps, no idea or concept of time. Some amount of time has passed and a lot of things happened. Okay, I guess that's the narrative we're rolling with.
I did wind up getting my GED and applying to join the military. Ashley wasn't happy with me wanting to join, so she basically acted like if I decided to run off to basic training, she would consider that me leaving her.
I mean, this isn't something that you could sit down and discuss like a decent adult. You're like, she's not going to want me to go, so I'm not going to tell her. All you're doing is delaying the conflict. But whatever, I guess. Poor decisions for you means content for me, so fine.
Despite Ashley's feelings, I had only one decision to make. I had to choose between being around my crazy father 40% of my day and only seeing my girlfriend like maybe 10%, or I could choose to have a job and likely never see either of them again.
Well, at least he has a job. At least he's performing a function, maybe. It's a step beyond what Elliot ever did, I'll say that much. If you haven't checked out the Roger Manifesto, please do. Many parallels here. Also, My Immortal, that ties into this a little bit as well.
So I chose to walk, and since I made that decision, I've completely lost touch with Ashley.
Am I so out of touch?
Wow, seems like you're really broken up inside about that.
You would expect me to be more broken up than I am.
Yeah, literally just said that.
But she went cold on me the moment I confirmed I was leaving. It was like the moment the words left my lip, she erased everything about me in her fragile little mind. And suddenly, I was no one. It was meant to.
I don't think that it's even that she made a conscious choice to forget about you. I think, she's just a golden retriever and she forgot. As soon as you hoved out of her field of vision, she's like, what was I doing again? Somebody else can pet me. And they will. And Arthur's not going to beat up anyone for touching her anymore. So I guess that's good. It's a blessing for Ashley. Out from under the violent, possessive boyfriend. Good. I hope she lived a very happy life, playing with a tennis ball in a field.
Regardless, I already went through MEPS, Military Entrance Processing Station, and I'm pretty glad that's over, considering it was one of the most significant aspects of me processing into the military.
Come on, Arthur, tell us about how they made you spread your butt to look for hemorrhoids.
No more!
A little deeper.
No! Deeper!
They make you take your pants off and do a little duck walk to check for spina bifida or whatever. Let's really get into the nitty gritty. It's one of the only actual human things that Onision's experienced in his life, so of course he's gonna write about it, right? Anyway,
while I was in the processing station, I witnessed a lot of human failure.
yeah, they got a lot of mirrors hanging up in there.
Probably never even seen your own face in the mirror.
It was an interesting experience seeing grown men cry because they didn't have the depth perception to be pilots.
Yeah, probably a lifelong dream smashed to the ground. I didn't find out that I was colorblind until in processing into the Navy, and my list of job went from hundreds to like 6. I didn't cry about it though. Like I had my heart set on being a nuke. Fuck off. The money looked good, that's it. Anyway,
some of the men weren't even physically strong enough to be considered for any job at all. They even denied people for having a blood pressure level they didn't like. I understand being upset about being rejected entirely, but some guys were sobbing over the fact that they just couldn't get the specific job title they wanted.
Yeah, aspirations are such a waste of time, aren't they? What's your point here?
Life for a lot of people seems to be about not appreciating what you have and always wanting more.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
You should always want more. You'd have to be insane to be like, you know what, this is good enough. I definitely have all the things I need. I'm super well taken care of, but there's always the wants in the back of your head. You're like, what if we did a little better? Are you trying to tell me right now that you didn't join the military because you wanted more? Of course you did. More than your father's house, more than his frog-shaped girlfriend or your dog-shaped one. Just get out and see the world and maybe get a little bit more. Don't look down on people for crying. That's one of the purest expressions of human emotion. Stand in awe that you're witnessing this raw a part of their life and maybe show some empathy. Is that too far beyond? It's probably too far beyond. Look who I'm asking here. Anyway, go ahead, ramble some more.
If the same guy who failed the vision test and cried actually passed it, he would no doubt have another episode down the line. Maybe it would be some other test he'd fail, or some administrative decision that denied his wishes to fly the specific type of plane he wanted. Self-assigned victims will always be victims.
Now that is a very interesting insight, and I can tell by what you've written so far that it comes from personal experience. You are the self-assigned victim. Every single time. You hate what you see in those people because you are those people. You know what I'm saying?
I don't want to call him pathetic because I'm trying to be more positive, but my hate runs deep, and I can't feel sorry for people who go out of their way to feel sorry for themselves.
I sort of agree with that outlook, but on the other hand, you don't know anything about that person. You saw him crying at MEPS, and you're like, I already know about that guy. He's terrible. You've painted him an entire backstory without exchanging one word with each other.
Once I was through MEPS, it wasn't long before they had me sitting at the airport, waiting to fly south. All the new recruits gathered at the entrance of our plane. We easily identified each other, somehow. Maybe it was the look of dread we carried, knowing the next couple months of our lives were going to wreck us.
Yeah, boot camp's even that fucking hard, especially in this new sensitive man's military. What a bunch of crap. When I was in Navy boot camp, we were getting smoked in the bay, and they made us do Smurf jacks, which are those jumping jacks that you do while you're squatting down. And the one kid in our division who actually read the handbook found out that you're not supposed to do that. It's a banned exercise, so he reported them. Never saw those RCs ever again. They lost their job, got a demotion. And basically our entire division got it easy for the rest of boot camp because, yeah, there was that one kid who's going to report you if it's against the handbook. Don't you miss the military where you'd try that shit and they'd smoke you twice as hard for it? I don't know. It ain't what it used to be. And that all probably goes double for the chair force. It's gotta be super easy. If Onision made it through, come on now.
We were all probably running from something. The strong desire for flight is so consuming.
Then do us all a favor and fling yourself off a building. Hypothetically, not literally, please don't sue.
No matter what our reasons for being there was, I'm pretty sure my family dysfunction had them all beat.
Yeah, nobody else had a dysfunctional family. You're so special and different than everybody. Nobody's had experiences aside from you. They don't get backstories until I've made one up for them. What's it like to live like this? Jesus.
When our plane landed in Texas, no one was there to greet us. We had to follow signs in the airport just to get to the waiting area designed specifically for military members. The room was insanely crowded already. Their schedule was specifically targeted at us arriving in the middle of the night, in part so that meeting the training instructors for the first time would be twice as terrifying.
You think they're doing it for the jump scare? What a fucking idiot. They're doing it so that they can keep you up for 24 hours and see how you react. There's no games of grab ass the first night of boot camp because everybody's dead tired. You save that for a month or two in. And yes, I was in the Navy, but I don't mean literal grab ass, okay? At least not for me. Whatever, anyway.
Something about hearing screams of pure rage at 1 a.m. cuts deeper through your skin than screams accompanied by sunshine. It's just mental terrorism 101. Thanks for that, military psychopaths.
You just completely missed the point of why they're doing it. The military's a stressful job. You might be put in some life or death situations. You need to be able to work and function under pressure, and they're testing you in that way. But the utility of it isn't even something that this little wimp fathoms. He's just like, they're doing it to totally scare me. You are a fragile little mouse. You know that? We can all see it.
After we were guided like mindless cattle onto the buses, arriving in a seemingly endless line just outside the airport, we were driven directly to our training facility at the local base. Each bus was welcomed by the screams of sociopaths and people who were no doubt never hugged as children.
I mean, leave it up to the sociopath to identify other sociopaths, I guess. Never hugged as children? Is that why Onision was hanging around all those kids? Just wanted to make sure that they didn't turn into drill instructors? That's funny.
After waiting around for 30 minutes outside, they directed a small group of 40 or so trainees with me into a small classroom.
Oh, so you weren't one of those trainees? They're all just following you? It's probably how he actually does see the world, you know? Didn't we have an endless line of buses just in the paragraph before? So now how are there only 40 of you? You had to walk through a minefield to enter the training center or something?
Once we were inside the classroom, they verified our individual identities and assigned us flight numbers. After this process was complete, we were called out by the flight number we were given, and from that point, we were directed to our new homes.
Yeah, flight number, like a bumblebee. Then again, in the Navy, we had to wear purple sweats and they called them Smurfs, so bumblebee or Smurfs, I'm not sure which one's more gay in this case. I'll leave that up to you, comment section.
These facilities were essentially composed of one massive room shared by 60 other trainees.
But there are only 40 of you? I don't know what's happening.
I could complain, but it was exactly what I expected.
Yeah? No shit. This is the thing that you chose to do.
As training progressed, I quickly realized that I had abusive training instructors.
You better report them. They'll lose their job, get knocked down a rank. They'll go easy on you for the rest of boot camp. Trust me, I just told this story.
I know this because shortly after I graduated BMT, one of the TIs who led our flight,
Or who lead our flight is what he wrote.
Sergeant Johnson, was demoted for punching a trainee in the face.
Yeah, but nobody in your class got punched in the face.
She regularly took things too far.
Oh, and it's a she? I mean, nobody wants to take a punch in the face, but if you had to get punched in the face by a man or a woman, which would you choose?
It didn't help that she knew how to maltreat us mentally, physically, and emotionally.
I don't think you're at boot camp for your emotional development. These Air Force boys, they got it all twisted.
Most training instructors would leave the heart alone, but for Sergeant Johnson, emotional abuse was her primary function.
I bet she's real good at it too. Takes one good look at you and sees what makes you tick and just rips that part out of you. Give me your tear ducts, emotional pretty boy. We're gonna replace these with something better.
When I first saw Sergeant Johnson, I thought she was a gorgeous little firecracker of a woman. She was about 5 feet tall, had an enormous amount of freckles and red hair. If we had the energy or privacy to gratify ourselves at night while in training,
Making the foul soup, here he goes.
we would all no doubt be doing it to her.
Why are you imagining what the other dudes are imagining? It's a very personal act. Just keep it that way, please.
But the fantasy with my training instructor only went as far as my ignorance of her true nature.
God, I cannot wait for him to get verbally brutalized. Did you include that part? Probably not, because it makes him look
Less key.
But I can imagine some of the things she said.
The woman turned into a monster, and not the kind you'd expect from a drill sergeant. Let's dive into an exact scenario.
Were you taken by surprise that the drill sergeants were going to yell at you? Taken by surprise enough to call it actual emotional abuse? He sees the bunk beds, he's like, oh yeah, that looks about right. And then the TI starts yelling at him and he's like, no,
You can't do that.
if he passes basic training, it'll be a miracle. Truth is, we all know, of course, he'll pass because, yeah, he's definitely the main character.
We were a couple weeks into training, and I was almost entirely alone in the sleeping area. Most of all the other trainees elected to attend a church that fit their religious beliefs that day. I had no beliefs and refused to go to any church.
Not even just to check it out, to fill up a boring Sunday? That's fine. I didn't attend church in boot camp either.
Private Joker, do you believe in the Virgin Mary?
Sir, no, sir!
Sergeant Johnson had to stay behind with us and practically babysit due to us not being willing to go pretend to love any god. As I was cleaning my locker by my bunk, Sergeant Johnson screamed,
Trainee Lindfeld!
I screamed back, Trainee Lindfeld reports! Sergeant Johnson stood at the entrance with another female military member and stared angrily in my direction.
Get over here and lay on your back immediately!
She screamed at me.
Was this death by snoo snoo?
To death! By snoo snoo!
Yeah! In basic, you're taught not to think for yourself. You're taught to do exactly as they instruct. Otherwise, you're punished through paperwork or forced exercise.
Y'all do paperwork as punishment? You know what? Not even the most ridiculous thing in this book. Not by a long shot. Damn it, I just called it a book again. This scrawling. This fucking first draft. So, okay, tell me why she wanted you to lay on your back.
I moved to the ground in front of the two women as they commanded. Sergeant Johnson then called over the other trainees and instructed them to do the same. Despite us being only feet away from her, she screamed as if we were still across the room.
How did you not expect that part of boot camp? Put your hands and feet straight in the air, trainees.
We all proceeded to put our hands and feet in the air. It was at that point that she started chuckling to the other drill sergeant. She said, and I quote,
"See, that's what I call a dead cockroach. That's what I was talking about." That's what makes her a monster. She made you do an exercise that has a slightly derogatory connotation in the name.
The sergeant made us hold that position for a good 3 to 5 minutes.
It was 1.5.
If you've never achieved the position I'm referencing, I encourage you to.
Yeah, I done achieved it. I love doing the dead cockroach. A strong body starts with a strong core, son. You need to get your crunches in, all right?
It's likely the only way you'll understand how painful it can be.
It's because you're weak. It's because you're soft. Well, that's the part we're trying to fix.
It's actually ridiculous how many exercises and positions can quickly become intensely painful if you just push slightly farther than you're used to. However, the dead cockroach wasn't even an exercise. It was humiliation.
Did you not realize that humiliation is part of all this as well? What did you expect basic training to be?
I don't really care that she called us idiots while we did it. I wasn't worried about feeling treated as if I was a piece of property. I was used to that by now. My main focus was to not upset the TIs more than they already were. I could never allow myself to be the weakest link, as the moment I fell out of line, I would be washed back and possibly have to repeat an entire week of basic.
Oh no, 1 extra week of your life that you're going to be paid for anyways.
At one point in basic, due to my failure to maintain my composure, I was forced to point and laugh at other trainees as they did push-ups.
How hard is it to maintain your fucking composure? I thought here you were, this serious brooding guy. You're giggling like a little girl in boot camp? Are you really the victim here, or are the people doing the push-ups the actual victims? I am sick and tired of your morons screwing up day after day. Your morons. Whose?
The male technical sergeant in charge of our entire flight screamed,
You're embarrassing the Air Force. You're embarrassing me. And you're no doubt humiliating the very vages that you were born from.
Hearing him say that caused me to let out a slight but noticeable burst of laughter under my breath. It was one of the stupidest things I ever heard a person say.
Truth is, it really cut you deep, didn't you? In this story, he thinks a lot of his mother. She taught him to read, do gymnastics, White Lotus Kung Fu, a bunch of other stuff that we haven't encountered yet. I'm pretty sure that the laughter was thinly veiled rage. It cut you deep is what happened, and you can admit to it, right? No, he can't.
Unfortunately for me, the tech sergeant heard my slip-up and marched towards me so he could scream in my face.
All right, trainee Lindfeld, how about you stand over there?
He pointed just to the right, where the entire flight was standing in formation. As I marched over to the spot, he commanded my fellow trainees to right face. The sergeant then commanded them to get into push-up position and immediately instructed me to point at all of them on the ground.
Front-leaning rest position, now move. Honestly, I would love to see all of these recruits turn on OP and give him a blanket party late at night.
The tech sergeant said sternly,
Trainee Lindfeld, you will laugh at them and remind them that they are pushing because of you.
I was trying so hard not to lose it again on the tech sergeant with laughter.
Again, the laughter is thinly veiled rage, I'm pretty sure. He doesn't have any other outlet, at least not the one he normally depends on, so you either laugh or you go crazy. I seen it before. I lived it before.
He could see I was amused, so he marched over to me and got in my face once more.
Do you want to be washed back? Do you want to repeat the entire last week with another flight?
He asked in a low, angry tone. In that moment, I almost instantly lost all amusement from the situation.
Should've just done it. No warning, no nothing. Just get out of my class.
I absolutely despise wasting hard work. If I continued my attitude, I'd be screwing myself. So I proceeded to say aloud in a monotone voice, "Ha ha ha, you're all pushing because of me." The drill sergeant was pleased.
Good. Continue.
He screamed in a voice that would make the average person think he was losing his mind.
Trust me, he knows exactly what he's doing, and it's working on you, author. You have no will of your own. They will reshape you in their image. And then you get out of the military, and it takes another couple of years to even start to shake the stupid off. Unfortunately, some people never do, as we see.
Ha ha ha! You're all pushing because of me, I said again.
Good. Scream it, Trainee Lindfeld.
The training instructor said, with an increasingly large grin on his face. Ha ha ha! You're all pushing because of me, I screamed as I stared at all the trainees doing push-ups. They were clearly getting more and more angry with me as the pain in their arms intensified.
I'm surprised you have the social awareness to even pick up on something like that. The blanket party is happening tonight. The only ticket you need is a bar of soap inside a sock. We'll take care of the rest.
It was in that moment the reality of my situation sank in. I personally like doing push-ups. The more I did them, the more I could do. It was incredible to watch my arms essentially level up.
Yeah, the results are fun. The action to get the results is generally not that enjoyable. Especially if you are pushing yourself to the point of muscle failure.
These trainees obviously didn't feel the same as I did about push-ups. I'd seen people in movies that were killed by their fellow man for less than what I was actively doing to my peers. Just looking at their faces, shaking, turning red, their eyes locked on me as they pushed. It was one of the few moments in my life that changed me.
1, 2, 3, 4. I love Marine Corps.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
All because you're scared of being beaten to death by a series of anonymous soap socks? I guess that's as good a reason as any.
I'm living amongst animals that know their emotions better than basic reasoning. These were animals that could only see what was in front of them.
Like Ashley. Remember Ashley?
And in their haze of anger, they didn't even have a slight idea of what was over the horizon. It was the instinct-driven, intellectually bankrupt animal mentality so many of my peers embraced.
Is that the same intellectually bankrupt animal mentality that you described yourself as having for the first part of this book? But when it's applied to everybody else, oh, that's disgusting. I can't believe they lived their lives that way. Are we not seeing the hypocrisy?
For all that, I learned to always fear them.
His peers.
How could I possibly trust these raging idiots?
I'm sure they're asking themselves the same question about you.
I'm often a person who plans before he acts.
Yes, unless you're having a chortle while you're standing at attention. Did you plan all that, or are we running purely on animal instinct? Like, again, we spent the first half of the book talking about. God, this is just mind-numbing. Like, I can understand being intellectually dishonest, but at least be consistent with it, please. Thank you.
If I want something done, I rarely do it in the moment. I lay it all out and proceed when I am certain of success.
Oh yeah, totally. Lots of planning, meditating. I've seen this case before.
It's only when I'm faced with extremes that I'm forced to react without forethought. These children in the bodies of men laying on their aching chests at my feet, they were performing such a simple exercise, and it caused them to look as murderous as I had ever seen anyone be. He was nothing like them.
Cause them to looked as murderous. It's adorable that you say there's nothing like him. It's like, I knew these guys for a month. That's the closest you could be to anybody, basically. My entire time in the Navy, I met one person that was also in my recruit division.
His name was Johnson. He talked like this, for real.
I think that's where the Sylvester Stallone voice comes from.
Scream it, Grady Lindfeld!
The TI commanded. Ha 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 ha! You're all pushing because of me. My year was no longer monotone. The confident scream I had before was replaced by something weak and distorted.
That's right. That's the actual version of you that exists under the confident veneer. Terrifying to look at, isn't it? You could build him up, make him stronger, or you could allow the ego to protect him and he'll remain weak and distorted for the rest of his life. We know which direction author took it, don't we?
The instructor could see I was disturbed by what was happening. It was only then that he commanded everyone stand and resume their formation at the position of attention.
Yeah, maybe no more fucking laughing this time, huh? Is that so very hard? I guess we'll find out.
While my experiences in basic were not that significant, those select moments stood out to me. Those moments made me learn a lot about how easy it is to manipulate and control people.
Yeah, that's the lesson you take away from all of it. You're just beyond help, aren't you?
Sergeant Johnson alone could write a book on emotional warfare.
Yeah, so could her husband. Hey, ho, ho!
Every other weekend, she was threatening to withhold letters from home.
Yeah, this really is some Air Force type of shit, isn't it? Boo-hoo! I can't talk to my mommy for 2 months.
Sergeant Johnson would tell us one day that we were amazing, and then the next day we were scum. These animals, posing as airmen in training, would take it out on each other, not seeing she was fabricating problems out of nothing just to make us squirm for her sadistic pleasure.
The fact that you think that's actually the case says a lot more about you than it does about her. She's got a job to do, a function to perform. She will whip these, as you called them, children in men's bodies into actual men. And yes, part of that is putting up with bullshit, taking it in stride, working alongside people you don't like once in a while. These are all really good things to learn, but authors just like,
she's being mean to me.
You really are just completely disconnected from reality.
The enjoyment Sergeant Johnson took out of putting us in the position of dead insects, torturing us by using gravity itself against us. The way my fellow trainees fell for every trick and trap along the way, some even breaking down, literally crying for their mommy.
All right, let's get this straight right fucking now, author. You are not all that much tougher than them, okay? You're running away from your daddy. And then you cry when somebody raises their voice to you or makes you do an exercise that you don't like the name of. Military really has gone to hell, hasn't it?
The only respect I had left for anyone in that entire building was the tech sergeant. He showed me in a matter of minutes how quickly he could turn a group of men against me. It was something most people never learn. Men are weak, often able to be controlled by even mild influences. Most men I've known should not be trusted.
I mean, people of any sort are sort of always just a wild card. You don't know what's making them tick. Although most of the time it's like self-preservation and them getting an advantage in some way. If people could backstab you, usually they will. Unless you've got a lot of rapport built there. Trust? No one.
I joined the military to escape the enemy in my home. But here I found the world is full of people who are ready and willing to write you off over nothing.
Good. Perfect. Excellent. I'm glad you've learned this lesson now. Not sure how you didn't learn it a bit earlier, but hey, better late than never.
Maybe the hatred I expressed earlier in this journal wasn't so far off. Maybe I'm not becoming more mature, but simply losing my grip on reality. Escaping my father gave me hope, and like a new goldfish given to a child, my hope is rapidly expiring.
Is the hope like the oxygen in the water and the kid doesn't know that you need to put bubbles in it or something? Terrible metaphor aside, however, or I guess it's a simile because he used like, whatever. He doesn't know the difference anyways. A terrible simile aside, I will say, I don't think you've ever been mature. More mature might be easy, but that's only because we're starting from absolute zero. As far as getting a grip on reality, it might be nice. Losing your grip would imply that you ever had one in the first place, which is not the case, clearly.
People say that teenagers are stupid and out of touch with reality. But if our bodies die the more we age, what's to say that we, as people, don't die emotionally too? Are we really growing up? Or is that just a nice way of saying that we're dying both on the inside and the outside?
You die as much as you let yourself die, both on the inside and the outside. Take time out of your day to laugh at some ridiculous shit. Oh, all of a sudden I'm not dying inside. Take some time to put some suntan lotion on your skin before going to the beach. Oh, now I'm not dying on the outside. Sure, eventually time catches up with all of us, and that's fine. But to pretend that you're going to live forever just because you're, quote, stupid and out of touch makes you seem really, I don't know, stupid and out of touch. Which are two great adjectives to describe Onion Boy. I usually do 2 chapters, but this is a pretty long one. I've had enough of this schlock for one day. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, like, comment, sub. Thank you very much to my Patreon patrons, my YouTube channel members, helping me out with a few more dollary dues every single month.
Seriously, guys, can't do without you. Seriously.
Aside from all that, I hope that you remember, friends, that you're loved, you're worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye. Go ahead, cut them open. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Promise swears it's just a fact.